Okay, well, we'd like to welcome you here to our city council meeting tonight. We appreciate those who are visiting. We're very grateful for you to be here and appreciate you taking the time out to kind of see how the process works. Hopefully when you leave, you don't walk out and go, wow, what a circus. We want you to have faith in government, not to lose faith in it, so we appreciate it. Okay, first of all, we'll have an invocation by Councilman Miller, and then we'll have a pledge by Councilman Crandall. So, Jason.
Father in heaven, we're grateful this evening for the opportunity that we have to come together as members of the community. We're grateful for the beautiful place that we live in, for the many blessings that we have and that we enjoy each day. We're thankful for the chance we have to discuss matters of importance that relate to members of the community as well as the property and areas that we live in. We ask that we'll be guided and directed. Please help us to have cordial discussion and be able to arrive at answers and solutions and decisions which are amenable to all involved. We're again grateful for all that we've been given and for this opportunity that we have to spend time together as members of Springville tonight. And these things we express our gratitude for in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please stand.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I need a motion on approval of this evening's meeting agenda.
Make a motion to approve the meeting's agenda as written.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we'd like to welcome not only those who are here, but if there are students here or scouts here who are visiting, anybody that's just visiting on their own, if you'll raise your hand so we can recognize you. Oh, great, because we would make you come up and sit with us up on the podium, so that, no, I'm just kidding, we wouldn't do that to you, so. Okay, great. If you have an interest in speaking to the council, you're welcome to do that. We don't take any action on what you may say, but you're certainly welcome to make a presentation. If you'll see Kim, we have one item, Michael Hansen, who has asked to speak to us, and so we'll certainly give him time to do that. But first of all, we'd like to do a presentation from the Springville Art Royalty. So, Rita, yes, there we go. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. In ring number 1 of tonight's circus, we've got our amazing new art royalty, and we always enjoy introducing them to the council and the mayor because they are much more a service organization than they have been in the past. And I'm going to introduce one of our museum educators, Chloe Hunter, who is the one who coordinates their activities, gets them to things, and kind of helps them understand what it means to serve in Springville and to serve the community. So Chloe, we'll turn some time over to you to introduce them and their parents.
My name is Chloe Hunter, and like Rita said, I'm an educator at the Springville Museum of Art, and we're so thrilled to introduce this group of lovely young ladies who are this year's art royalty. We've had a chance to get to know them a little bit through, they've already volunteered for some of our events, including Celebrarte and the Children's Art Festival, which were both very successful, and we're very grateful for all of the hard work that they put into that, and their willingness to be so happy and lovely at those events. Art Royalty is a big part of our museum's history. It's a volunteer organization now that we do, and this year they'll be involved in a number of events at the museum, including Evening for Educators. They're a big part of our Halloween party and Santa's art shops, as well as the children's tea and various show openings. They'll always help, so if you ever want to see these girls again, be sure to come to any of those things at the museum. But this year we're doing things a little bit differently. In the past, we have elected our art queen through the application process. So at the beginning of the year, the museum staff picks the girls that and boys. The past few years we've opened it up to all genders. but we pick them based on their application. But this year we've decided we were going to try something a little differently, and throughout the year, both the museum staff as well as these young women will be looking for leadership qualities in each other as a way to kind of promote looking for goodness and strengths in others. And then the art queen will be voted on by the staff and by their fellow art royalty members at the end of the year. So we don't have a queen to present to you yet, but we have 6 prospective queens here tonight. So I'll go ahead and introduce them, and if their parents or any family members are here when they're called up, you're welcome to stand if you would like. First, we have Sylvia Orm, daughter of Nathan and Rachel Orm. Yeah, come on up here. Whitney Jeffs, daughter of Randall and Natalie Jeffs. Megan Gwilliam, daughter of Jason and Samantha Gwilliam. Adria Young, daughter of Jay and Willow Young. Aurelia Olson, daughter of Richard and Marilyn Olson. And Emily Bell, daughter of Jason and Lisa Bell. And unfortunately, she wasn't able to join us tonight, but we also have Jocelyn Hunt, daughter of David and Leanna Hunt. But we're very excited for these girls and to get to know them better and to watch them grow and develop as leaders and pillars in the community. And we also have a little gift for the council members. We've got, so yeah, you guys are welcome to bring them up.
Oh, wow.
We've got a little,
Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you.
all of our latest and greatest
Thank you.
museum merch.
Awesome.
We've got a cute little mug and our tote bag and a water bottle and some notebooks and pens to write on.
Fun.
But we're super excited to work and represent the city.
Parents can come up and take pictures too if you want.
Get behind the camera, you can't be seen.
Yes, I'm hiding back here.
One will never hurt. Well, thank you very much. What a treat this is. We're very, very grateful, and we wish you all the very, very best in what you do. And it is a very service-oriented royalty, and we appreciate all that you do. The best part of sitting up here on the podium here is to be able to watch the parents as their daughters came up. It's really beautiful to see how proud they are of their children, and we're very grateful for the youth here in our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a mayor's award. Shannon, is that correct? Wonderful. We turn the time over to you. Thank you.
Kind of feel like this is like Molly will be up here, that she's our person getting the mayor's award. This is probably going to be her platform in a few years, getting our other awards that we are so excited about giving out in the city. But Molly, can you go ahead and come up here? Thank you. Molly is a busy gal. We tried to get her a couple times, and she was so busy. So we're going to have you come right here. And the mayor's going to come down, and you're going to turn around and smile so cute and so big. You ready to hold that? There we go. Okay, I'm going to read about Molly really quick. Her parents are Joseph and Emily Price. Joseph and Emily, if you would like to stand up really quick and be recognized for having an amazing daughter, thank you. And her teacher this last year was Laurel Fox, and she nominated Molly, and she goes to Reagan Academy, and she is going to be going in the 3rd grade. And so this is what the nomination says. I would like to nominate Molly Price. There are many students that would qualify for this nomination, but Molly is someone who really stands out. She comes every day to school with such a positive attitude. She always gets right in and does everything that is asked of her. She has improved greatly in reading and spelling. She is very teachable and willing to try and learn. Molly is also very kind. I have never heard of a time when she did not get along with someone. She is always happy and willing to help others. She loves to participate in class, and she is a joy to have in my class. I felt honored to be her teacher. So that's pretty awesome words, Molly. If we could have a big round of applause for her, that'd be great. Patrick, did you get your picture already? Oh, perfect. Parents, do you need some pictures? Okay. Thank you, Molly, so much for being here. See, that was harmless. She was a little nervous, so thank you, City Council and Mayor, so much. Appreciate your time.
So if there's no grandparents, I'd be happy to be that young lady's grandparent. That's a cute girl. Cute girl. That's great. Okay, we have one comment that's to be made by Michael Hansen. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, you can certainly make it now. I didn't get a chance to fully look at that, but it may be on an agenda item, so it may be more appropriate on the agenda item, but I'm not positive.
Okay, Michael, let's see. Now, Josh, let me ask you a question. Are these items to be continued? Are they on here to be presented and voted on this evening on Westfield? Can you tell me?
The item that is the city-sponsored item is the item that is Lafferty Homes, that is the side yard setback for the cottage unit.
So item number 6 is to be presented and voted on, and item number 7 is to be continued. Is that correct? Okay, sounds good. Well, I'm going to leave it up to you, Michael, as to whether you'd like to do it at that moment or you can do it now. It's your choice, so you tell me. Okay, great. We'll turn the time over to you if you take 3 or 4 minutes. And again, we don't respond, but feel free to tell us what's on your mind.
Great, thank you so much. My name is Michael Hansen. I met my wife at the Springville Museum of Art, and we had our wedding reception there, so I'm glad to see the museum is still very active in the community. I live 4 houses away from the Westfields development, and I just wanted to thank the City Council for extending opportunity for public input on it. I know that my neighbors feel somewhat defeated by the process and have strong feelings about it, and I think I feel the same way, but I wanted to at least come out and voice what I thought would be nice for now. It's my first time doing something like this. I'm hoping to just say that the original, as I read the amendments, I don't know if I understood them completely, but from what I saw, the changing in the setbacks and the changing of the cottage units seems not to go in line with the original intent of the plan, as it says it does. The original intent of the plan, I think, for those units was to create detached single-family dwellings, and even if and to create a certain amount of spacing in the neighborhood that was consistent with what's already there. So changing those setbacks and changing the type of unit in the area, I think, doesn't go in line with the original intent of the program there. I mean, alternatively, you might consider combining some of those lots to make them buildable. I know I've seen this happen in a lot of my friends who buy lots that are deemed unbuildable by the city, and they have to buy more land in order to make it happen. And I just wanted to make those things known and ask for your help in representing those interests of those people living nearby and about everyone I talk to in Springville City. Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. I hope that you'll stay around as we talk about these items. I think it'll be helpful to you, and we appreciate you being here tonight. So, okay.
Mayor.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. You can do it now, and if you just tell us your name and your address, that would be, for the record, that would be wonderful. So
my name is Natalie Hollingshead, and I live at 872 West, 1050 South, so actually close to the Westfields development as well. But what I'm here to talk about is the Dry Creek Trail. I was in the work study listening to that, and I was also one of the neighbors that gathered with Councilman Sorensen and Councilman Snelson back in May, and have I just wanted to tell you how much support there is in the neighborhood for that project. And I did hear the discussion on kind of prioritizing things according to the current allocation of spending and, all that sort of stuff. And that does definitely make sense. I just did want to point out that this is something that has been discussed for a long time and has been repeatedly backburnered. So if there's some way that we could bump it up to get progress on it, I understand there's lots of competing priorities in this city, especially as it grows out and a lot of people that want things developed in their neighborhood. I do think it should be a priority to at least bring up to standard existing projects before we launch into something else. I think that would be really important, and I understand there's a process that things need to go through, and that I think a lot of people in the group thought that there was already funding for an assessment, but I understand that's the first step. But just know that there's a lot of people in the neighborhood willing to help and pitch in and do all sorts of things in order to get the ball rolling on that one. Of course, we don't want to jump over any other projects. Well, actually, we do. We don't want to necessarily jump over any other projects. This is just something that has been stepped on repeatedly and we feel like needs to be brought back up as a priority. So it wouldn't be a jumping over projects so much as no longer turning a blind eye, because it's bad. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate you attending the meeting before, too. Great. Okay, we have some items on the consent agenda. Any questions in relationship to any items on the consent agenda? Item 2, 3, and 4? Okay, I'll entertain then a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Okay.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay,
Can I ask Josh just one question about that? On that subdivision, the Mill Pond Estate, it says that it's accessed from 6th east and 4th north. Does it also come back in to
Yes.
about 5th east on the north end of it? It looked to me, so you can access it, it's not just a dead end, it goes clear through, right?
Correct.
Okay, because that doesn't say that there, but I thought, I drove by and looked at it, and it looks like it was not a cul-de-sac. It's,
Access off of Fourth North and
oh, that says and. Okay, good.
just north of the city is pump station.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Thank you.
okay, great. Chief Haight, if you would like to come and address us in relationship to a resolution with Mapleton City.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. In your agenda packet is information about the cooperative agreement that we have with Mapleton City. We have our emergency dispatch center for the police department and fire department and utilities, and we've been contracting with Mapleton to provide those services for them, 24/7 coverage for police and fire, and then after-hour coverage for their utilities as well. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. It puts us on the same radio channel so that we hear traffic that's going on in Mapleton and they hear traffic that's going on here, and we will cover each other on different calls. So it creates a good cooperative working relationship between our two police departments and fire departments. It's been a good relationship. It benefits us, and they pay for this service, so it contributes to our budget, which helps us out as well. So there's just a couple of changes that they asked for in this agreement renewal. One of the council members was concerned about the term of the agreement, not specific to this agreement, but agreements in general. This particular council person doesn't like long-term agreements, and so they felt she proposed a 2-year agreement with the options of continuing it through to 5 years. After the initial 2-year period, then either party can opt out with a short notification period. A couple other requests that they asked is that have written in the agreement that the two fire departments, Springville and Mapleton, can get together and help establish standard operating procedures for our dispatch center to use, which is welcomed. We want to be able to meet their expectations, so that was easy to agree to that. They also want to have influence in the training of dispatchers, which is important to implement those policies and procedures. So those are, and they also wanted to participate in quarterly reviews about how our dispatch is effective in dispatching fire calls. So all those things are positive in my mind. Help us make a better dispatch center. So I have no reservations about that. Again, it's a mutually beneficial agreement. So my recommendation is that you consider and approve the agreement.
Chief, just a quick question about that. So they're paying about 10% of the expenses of this. As long as those things are cooperative and doesn't mean that they have any type of authority or input beyond, suggestions. I mean, that's great, but I mean, it's our center. We're running, and they're subleasing it, right, or taking a little bit of, the benefit from it. So I just want to make sure that it's still Springville. When you're saying these cooperative things and these arrangements, that's great. I want to make sure Mapleton doesn't really have a say or authority to direct it one way or the other when
It's
it comes
going
down
to
to
be
it.
mutually agreed upon between the two fire chiefs, their recommendations, and then if they get too overbearing, then we also have the opt-out as well, so.
It just seems like with the percentage they're putting in versus
Yeah.
the percentage we're putting in, that it should be a little more weighted the other way. But I don't understand how it works. It's probably a dumb concern.
I'm assuming that in the past that this type of thing hasn't happened. I mean, nobody's getting overbearing with the dispatch, I would guess. I mean, if you're happy with it, I'm assuming.
No, and I'm sure that's the case. I don't know.
This is the first time Mapleton's kind of pushed on this, though, and it's coming from their council. So this, at the staff level, it's been fairly cooperative. With Mapleton going to full-time fire, they've raised some operational issues, and that's new to the relationship. So there is some right to be concerned about what that may develop into. But as the chief mentioned, you have the ability to get out and let them get dispatched somewhere else.
And quite frankly, we have room for growth in the dispatch center to be more standardized in how we dispatch for fire calls. So I've mentioned in prior meetings about how we dispatch medical calls. There's a similar format for dispatching fire calls and asking people specific questions and dispatching a particular way. So there's room for growth, and I think that's what they're looking for. Both fire chiefs are.
So where did 4.8 come from?
Troy helped out with that. It was a
So the 4.8 growth item.
Yeah.
Actually, our recommendation was CPI.
Why did they do CPI?
And they wanted it known.
Because I think it's fair both directions. It just seemed to me if you float it, if things get back down to 2, that's
Right.
Interesting. And I could see that proportionately they are getting a little bit more than just the set percentage, 80-20, 80-20. It was getting to be 79-21, whatever the number was. But is there any thought about that, or does that not make that much difference? Does that make sense?
You mean in terms of
As far as the
percentage?
calls goes and the number of, what was the, let's see.
percentage of
It was, in 18, it was 82.8 and 17.2. Well, in fiscal year 21, it was 79.9 and 20.2. Materially, it's not that much different, but.
Right,
I
and so
see that.
we were doing it off of basically 80%. That just depends on what we see as the growth in the community.
Small. I don't even know.
Well, but I think the question would be if we continued to anticipate that their call volume would grow faster than our call volume, we would factor that into the rates.
Yeah.
But in this case, I think they've had a growth spurt that we think will go the other direction. So if anything, over the term of this, I think it'll be back down below 20%.
Well, I'm just thinking if you just did it by percentage, whatever it turns out to be.
Interesting. We started there. This is a fairly good deal from them. If you were to do 20% of our total costs, it's actually quite a bit higher than what's in this arrangement. They were struggling to get to that value. They had explored the possibility of going to Central, so the Utah County Dispatch Center. For us, at the current time, we wouldn't make any change in our staffing if Mapleton wasn't there. So it's more beneficial to have us as part of them, even if they're slightly underpaying their weight, than to not have them at all.
Well, to Craig's point, I'm okay. I just wanted to know.
When I look
And
at
what
those
did you
percentage
call-
points, I'm like, are you kidding me? We're talking about it.
So did you call me a gnat's what?
No, I said it is a gnat's butt. Is what we're talking about.
I didn't hear bud. I heard something else.
No, I said ask. Ask about it.
Okay. Other questions for Chief Haight? Sorry. Okay, no questions, and I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll motion to approve. Oh, I have to read something. A motion to approve resolution number 2022-27 to enter into an agreement with Mapleton City for emergency dispatching services.
I'll second.
Okay, as a roll call vote, Mr. Snelson,
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Sure.
Ms. Crandall,
Yes.
Mr. Jensen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Josh, you want to come up and address number 6 and a continuation on 7, it sounds like?
As I pull this up, I will just update you on that. On item number 7, the applicant is preparing additional materials to support their application on that and has asked us to wait until they have opportunity to complete those materials and bring it to us for review and potentially solicit some input or some direct communication with members of the council. So they just wanted to have that continued. They will probably see that come back probably at the soonest the second regular meeting in August.
Okay.
So this is the city-initiated application regarding these changes. For background, the City Council adopted the traditional neighborhood development overlay in September of 21, which was essentially, as we described it, the picture frame zone that allowed somebody to come and show you a picture, and if you liked it, you could put it in the frame. And you adopted the first picture to go in that frame at the same meeting, which was the Westfield Central New Neighborhood Plan. And then we adopted amendments to that plan in response to the developer and applicants' work with the community in November. And since then, we've worked with a number of builders who've come in, have lots under contract to develop plans for this. And it's actually interesting because it is different enough from most builders, even some builders from other areas of the country, that they're primarily developing new plans for this project, which is exciting that we're not just getting somebody's stock plan dropped down on our lots. And it gives us an opportunity to work towards some good outcomes. But what it's brought up to us is that, and it really comes down to me, that the teeth in my comb were not fine enough as we were originally reviewing this, and that some of the standards create awkward or unbuildable conditions on some of the lots, not because they're unbuildable for some type of reason other than the ordinance we adopted wasn't properly calibrated, or there were internal inconsistency errors that make things awkward. And I have a diagram for each of those lots to show you how that works. Lastly, when we brought this to you in September, there was a change made in the meeting to height. As it was presented to council and recommended by Planning Commission, there was no foot-based height limit. It was just solely based on stories. And as there is some product or some lots, this code is based off lot types. There were some lot types that were permitted to go to 3.5 stories. There was concerns over the height from some members of the council, and so there was a change made in line in that meeting where we added a 35-foot height limit onto the regulating plan that would apply to each of the lots instead of trying to make you wait for us to go change every single lot type. When I came to the November meeting to make those amendments, I used a version, not the version of the regulating plan that was in the ordinance, but the version I had been working from that I made the ordinance from that didn't have that change we made the night of the meeting. So the 35-foot height amendment got dropped out of that, and we need to bring that back through this legislative process to make sure it's back in there and back in there properly. So this is the site, the Westfields and Neighborhood Plan between 700 South, 900 South, 950 West, and the backing up to the houses at the front, 750 West. It's the last other than the donut hole over here surrounding the Front Runner Station site. It's the last residential development site left in the southern Westfields area on the west side of the Tintic rail line. The first change, and this is a slight change from what was recommended by the Planning Commission. I went back through it again because I didn't want to be caught again not catching something, and I caught something. The alleys are actually designed with 5 feet of setback from the edge of the alley or pavement to the lots for planting and to soften the alleys. So there's essentially a 5-foot driveway in the lots from the edge of the alley to the back of the lot before you pull onto the lot. So what we were recommending at at Planning Commission was that you could be less than 3 feet from that back property line or equal to or greater than 20 feet. After I did that math and realized that 3 feet's actually too much because our primary concern is that people would park back there, but it doesn't quite fit. And then we create all kinds of problems for our garbage, for these aren't ours to maintain, but for the HOA to plow and maintain these. We end up with problems for circulation, and some units are only accessed off the alleys. And so we wanted to make sure our emergency services always had adequate room to conduct their operations. So we're recommending that for all the lot types except for the pocket court, the apartment house, apartment building, and mixed-use building, which have surface parking, that the rear setback for garages is either equal to or less than 1 foot or greater than 20, so that there's only a max of 6 feet back there between the edge of the alley and the door of the garage, which is not enough to park in parallel, and it's not enough to park in head-in. You would stick out a lot. In Daybreak, we've seen the experience where people think they can almost make it, but you end up with an F-250 with a quad cab, and you're 4 feet out of the alley, and it creates problems.
Help me understand. You said a minute ago you want if it was a little bit wider, people would park back there, and you didn't want it to prohibit the service vehicles and the garbage truck. Now you make it this much smaller. How on earth are those vehicles that you just said might not be able to get there? How can they ever get through there?
Yeah, I need to pull up a diagram. So we're not changing the width of the alley. We're actually saying the garages have to be closer to the alleys so that there's not enough room to park in between the edge of the alley and your garage door. Because then that could block, you would be sticking out into the alley and block people. And I'll pull up a diagram and show you how that works.
Sounds like it's gotten even narrower to me.
Yeah, so the plat doesn't change, the right-of-way of the alleys isn't changing at all. So let me...
So really, it's just less parking.
It's less area in between the alley
parking.
And your garage door.
Yeah, so that you can't park there anyway.
So you can't park. You have to park in your garage or on the street.
Or on the street.
You can't park.
And is there enough parking on the street, too?
There's 2 spaces for every unit in a garage, and there are no driveways on the street except for 1 lot. So there's actually more on-street parking in this neighborhood than in any of our other neighborhoods. I'll get to that, Councilmember Sorensen, on the next slide. I just wanted to show here that for ease in, like we did with the maximum height, for ease in having this apply to all the lot types without having to go through a lot of reformatting, we're proposing to add that provision about the parking just onto the regulating plan so it applies generally. We're also proposing to add back the maximum height for all lot types shall not exceed 35 feet that we mistakenly left off the last set of amendments. So this is your first diagram. And to Councilmember Sorensen's question, this is the alley, just showing a little bit of the alley. We want to make sure the garages are close enough to the alley that if they got back into here, people might park back here and poke back out into the alley. Because there was enough room, if at 3 feet, there's enough room that people might think they could park, but it's actually not big enough. So if we push it down to 1 foot, then there's only a foot between the back of the lot and the garage door, and then the 5 feet out to the alley. So that's not enough. Unless you're like driving a smart car, would you think I can park back here and stay out of the alley? So we're not changing the width of the alley or the width of the pavement in the alley. We're just making it less comfortable for people to park behind their garages in the alleys.
I always ask this question. Where's the snowplow going to move the snow so that these service vehicles can get down that alley?
I could pull up the plat and show you, because we actually designed spaces for each of that. So we did consider that. There are there are open spaces in the back alleys at the end of each run for plows to push snow into in the event we do get snow.
And the alleys are private, so that's not.
Yeah, and the alleys are private, it's not.
Except for garbage pickup and.
Garbage pickup shouldn't be there either.
Garbage pickup shouldn't be there either. That's something that's kind of in flux at the moment.
So our current policy, we don't pick up on, our current policy is we don't pick up on alleyways. We've learned that we've started picking up on some alleys, and that's where the flux is discussion over whether that should continue, and then we need to update our policies.
Yeah, because we've got a lot of alley-loaded product in this and in Westfields, in Lakeside Landing, so we're going to have to figure out how to do with that. So that potential in the future, and there's also lots in this, like back in the interior of this block, and some back here that only access off the alleys. So the alleys need to stay clear for emergency access.
If you're only dropping it down to a foot, this goes back to the garbage, but so you wouldn't have can storage back there?
No, they need to be in your garage.
Oh, inside the garage?
Yeah.
What do they do at Camelot, like right now? Because Camelot's like that, isn't it? Where they have just the alley that services like
So,
6 units or 5
Yeah, Camelot in the townhomes, that should
the
be.
condos?
The condos should be
Brought out.
commercially loaded. They don't have individual cans.
Yeah. Here, there's actually room in the alley, and the HOA could choose to put garbage corrals.
It's whatever they decide to do.
Yeah, because we will serve these detached units with our municipal garbage service. And they could, what happens a lot is in these little landscape areas that are technically in the alley, they're not on the lot, but the HOA will allow you to store your garbage cans there. That's one reason for having that 5 feet.
So, Josh, are you putting the extra footage in the garage? Are you making the garage bigger? Where
It
does
depends
that
on
go?
how they choose to
I have
use that. It could potentially make the interior yard bigger by allowing the garage to be closer to the alley.
Okay. However they want to.
Right.
They just have more choices.
Right. So on each of these lot types, I've drawn a diagram for both the existing condition and the proposed condition, and then I have a bullet illustrating or telling you what each one is. So on the house, we're proposing to take the corner side yard, which is the side yard adjacent to the street, from 10 feet to 8 feet, and reducing the distance that a bay or a porch could project into that setback from 6 feet to 5 feet. So we're letting the house be a little closer, but we're keeping that porch a little farther back. In net, it actually makes it can be a foot closer, but we didn't want it to be 2 feet closer. We wanted to make sure it was at least 3 feet off the back of walk.
So why are you moving it closer?
Oh, which one?
Why are you moving it from 10 feet down to 8 feet? What's the logic?
Because at the minimum lot width here, we have a minimum building frontage, so the building has to be a certain amount wide on the lot. The math works out where if you have a 10-foot street side yard and a 8-foot interior side yard, you don't have enough lot left to meet the minimum building width.
So the lots are too narrow.
Yes, the math between the minimum lot width and the setbacks and the building width didn't add up. This is another change from Planning Commission. I went back through the plat and analyzed each one of these lots independently that were actually platted, and that's nice because now we actually have a plat and I can go and make sure everything works. Before, when it was perspective, it was a little tricky. But I had actually recommended to Planning Commission to drop these interior side yards to 5 so that the math worked, but looking at all the lots, they're all wide enough to retain that we can just keep the interior side yard at 8 feet like it currently is. So I'm recommending a change from what Planning Commission recommended to actually just keep the interior side yard at 8 feet, not reduce it. So our only reduction in setback in the house is from the
On the
10
front.
feet on the street side to the 8 feet on the street side. The next one is term we'll encounter a lot, so I'll explain it. Parking and waste from front facade. So the front facade is the front of the building, not including the porch or any bays sticking off the front of the house, which is this dark blue area. And parking waste is parking and garbage. You have to keep your parking and your garbage at least X feet from the front of the front of the house. In this case, it leaves you at the minimum lot depth 12 feet for parking, which isn't enough to park in. So we're recommending reducing that from 50 feet to 40 feet, and all of these drawings aren't to a specific scale, but they are all accurate in terms of scale to each other. So this allows an actual garage to fit on the rear of the lot, as opposed to only having 12 feet for surface or garage parking. And I would point out that this zone does permit surface parking for a single-family residential building if a builder decided to build a carport or just surface park at the rear of the lot. And then, as I mentioned, reducing the side encroachment, so how far a bump out on a house can stick out into the side yard from 6 feet to 5 feet, to offset that change to the street side yard. Are there any questions on the house?
Where's the front door
Uh,
on these?
It's down here. So this is a front porch.
That's the front porch, and then the garage is to the back,
Yes.
and then this is there's two side yards.
Yes, there's a street side yard and an interior side yard, and if you're just in between two houses, you have two interior side yards. And then
Okay,
this
because
is
there's only two buildings so there's a street on each side of the building.
there's a street
and
over
the street
here.
over
So
here.
if you're next to a street on the side, then you have a street side yard or a corner
Okay.
side yard. And if you're next to another house, you have an interior side yard.
Okay,
So, and all these houses this is just a diagram just showing two of them. This would keep going down the street, and these would all be interior side yards until you ran into another street.
so not just okay. So and then the middle yard.
Yes.
It looks like in here is that where you're doing where we're going to come back and talk about number 7 later?
No.
No, continue.
7's related to the overall side yard setback for the cottage lot type
Oh, this isn't the
specifically,
house. This is the house.
and for another different arrangement of side yards
Okay.
than traditional side yards.
Okay, thanks.
Josh, are there any examples of side yards with this small of a setback anywhere in town?
All over Plat A, yeah.
Wait. How? There are. Okay, so what is the side yard?
So
Is
the
it
street-
5?
If you're next to a street, your side yard is 8 feet. Sorry, this moved weird.
Sorry,
This is
15?
supposed to be down here.
Is it 15 feet in between? One
It'd be
has to be
10
10
feet,
and 10,
10
and one
feet.
has to be 5. One has to
No,
be 10.
no.
You're making it less
So
than
it's
some.
8 for a house. It's 8 feet if you're next to a street. On the side that's adjacent to another house, it's 8 feet, and so it's 16 feet between houses and 8 feet from the house to the sidewalk.
On the side?
On the side, yes. So on your street side, it's an 8-foot setback, and on your interior side, it's an 8-foot setback. So it's actually the same setback on either side. We reduced the street side from 10 to 8. So if you,
And that's the same as in Plat A.
Well,
it's not the same as the R15 zoning, no, but it's the same as many examples of existing conditions.
Okay.
it's
Yes.
because there was no zoning codes when those houses were built, and they just built them.
And they just build them up
Whatever.
to the side, yeah.
I
Yeah.
know.
Or, I mean,
Okay.
any number of traditional neighborhoods across the state have minimal side yards.
Alrighty then.
Well, they used to tell us so they get a fire truck between them if they had to, but that doesn't have anything to do with it anymore, does it?
I'd never heard that, but no, that doesn't apply. There are building code issues regarding fire rating your exterior walls within a certain distance to if your exterior walls within a certain distance of the property line.
I never saw one that you could drive a fire truck down it, but,
No, typically they'll pull their hoses.
yeah.
So what's the rationale underlying the 50-foot from the facade to the parking and waste? I just don't understand. I mean, what principle governs that? Why would that be important? Why?
In a typical,
Just for appearance? I mean, when you're looking at the front of the building, you don't want to see but these are lined up anyways, so I'm just trying to understand what underlies that, why they chose 50-foot originally, and
so
why.
originally most of these were calibrated to 100-foot deep lots, which was kind of the starting place, and then we developed the plat to be more hybrid. And so at that, you want to keep the parking at the rear of the lot, so there's actually a backyard between the parking and the house. And otherwise, builders may bring the garage all the way to the house and then bring a long driveway up, and you end up with paving over most of your backyard. So it's that, and it's also to create a break in the mass of the house from the side street. If we allow this to all be one solid mass, it feels much bigger and imposing from the side street, but where we break it up and then have a minimum width of this rear wing, as it's called in the code, it serves to reduce the overall perceived mass of the house.
It looks cool.
But these numbers are not in and of themselves some kind of sacred number. They need to be calibrated to the homes that the builders are planning to build and the lots that are being platted, and that's where we didn't do a good enough job here, is calibrating the lot standards. Any other questions on house?
Just one, how many of these are on the east side that will be now, there'll be a couple of feet closer to the houses if there are these that are now just 3 feet closer to the road. So on that east side, how many of these are now going to be 3 feet closer to the existing houses?
None. There are no houses that have rear yards that abut the rear yards of the houses to the east.
What is between there? A road, an alley?
There is alley in some portions. There are houses adjacent, but they're side yards. I could pull up the plat and show you where the lots.
That's just a thing that a citizen
Yeah.
say, now you've approved this, and now these houses can be even closer to us. But you're
Right.
telling me that they cannot be any
So
closer?
this was originally, these all could all go to 0 in the original code, and I wanted to give them a little bit of room to, but they didn't have an upper limit, so they could go all the way to 0, but they could also make it 10, which then tempts people to park. So what I did is I said you can still go to 0, but you can't go more than a foot in unless you're going to go all the way to 20. So the actual minimum setback didn't change; it's still 0. Before what the Planning Commission saw was our recommendation was that it can be up to 3 feet off. Because before it is a minimum of 0. There was no maximum.
The only real change is what they thought was going to happen and what can now happen, but
No, because originally somebody could build their garage right on the lot
but
line.
wasn't it approved at 5? Have they seen that? Or
No,
they
it wasn't approved at 5.
Okay, that's what I'm wondering, so,
It was approved at 0,
okay,
and it's still 0 minimum
if they wanted to.
if they want it to, but we're saying has to be less than or equal to 1 foot or
So
more than 20
That
feet.
helps me understand how to answer that question,
Yeah.
if it comes, it could have been this close before.
Always could have been 0. Now it can be a foot off.
You understand why I asked
yeah,
that, so I know
Yes.
I'm getting it when we
We
get the
haven't
question.
pulled the rear of these houses any closer to the back lot line than was previously allowed. We're actually keeping them closer or farther away in terms of what the possibility is, but not reducing the minimum at all.
Thank you for
You're welcome.
putting up with me.
Oh, no problem. This is confusing. It's new for us. It's new for me. I thought I had a pretty good grasp on it, but same thing with Lakeside. As we work through Lakeside, we missed something. So it's a process. On the Cottage, The only change is that parking and waste from front facade. It was 40, which at a minimum size lot, again, leaves you about 10 or 12 feet for a garage, and it's coming down to 28. So it can essentially, on the minimum size lot, which there aren't very many cottages that are at the minimum depth, it basically blends the house and the garage together. That's the only change proposed on the cottage.
So is the minimum size yard, is it 40 by 28? What's the minimum size yard?
The minimum size yard for a cottage
I guess I just,
is
doesn't matter.
30 by 65.
30 by 65, okay.
Yes. So when you add up the front setback of 12 feet and then a 40-foot setback, you're at 52, and so that only leaves you 13 feet for a garage.
Okay.
So we're reducing that to allow this rear building to come to 25 feet off of the back property line, I think is the way the math works.
So on all of these, Josh, just for a conceptual idea to make it clear for me, these changes are not infringing on any neighbors?
No.
Okay.
No, unless you happened to live, unless you were one of the new houses living across the street from another house, the house could be 2 feet closer to the street than it was before, but they're not going to be any closer to the existing houses than they previously were. No front setbacks or rear setbacks are being reduced.
Okay.
The pair house is the same issue, that it only, and I actually illustrated it here, would only leave you 15 feet for parking, and we're bringing it so you can actually have a deep enough garage to have cars in and some type of utility. For the townhomes, this was one where it was a really clear error that park under townhomes aren't supposed to have a rear setback. They're like the ones you see in Anthem West, which is just the west of 1200 West, just right as the road starts coming back together at 10th South, probably about, I think, where you basically turn off the alley right into the garage of the townhome. In the existing code, we had left in a 30-foot rear setback, which leaves you with about 10 feet of buildable area on the lot from the rear front setback to the rear setback. And then had the parking and waste at 30 feet from the front facade. So we said you couldn't build closer than 30 feet to your rear property line, but you couldn't park closer than 30 feet to the front of the house. So the two did not overlap.
So principally, this would be the same as you would have originally presented.
Yes, this was, if you look at the drawing in the, it wasn't until I redrew them and actually measured things that I realized we had problems, because this is what the original diagram in this document looks like. It just had the wrong number on it. So again, this one goes to the same as the other ones. It has to be less than or equal to 1 foot or greater or equal to 20 feet. And then the parking and waste from the front facade is now 12 feet. So this front 12 feet of the building has to be rooms or some type of occupied space. It can't just be a main floor garage with no
Livable
living
area.
space on the main floor. And for the stack flat, the same issue, where the area you could build a garage and the area you could park did not actually overlap. And so we end up with the same configuration as the park under townhomes, which is matches up with the original diagram. On the 3 townhome estate, which is a 3 townhome building that's designed to look like one large single family house, we had the same thing. Basically, as we were making each of the sheets, it was really a copy and paste error that we took the table with all the standards in it and didn't take out the setback where the setback needed to be taken out as we were calibrating. Are there any questions on these 3? They're all the same: the stack flat, the townhouse park under, and the 3 townhome estate.
We're still just talking setbacks on all of these.
We're talking rear setbacks, right? Yeah, this was.
Doesn't create any more units.
No.
In any sense, it can't do that.
No, the number of units is actually set on the regulating plan. the maximum density for the Westfields is 11 dwelling units per gross acre, and the lot totals is 147 lots that equals 196 units because some of them are multifamily buildings. So that's already all set in here.
Nothing's changed in that one.
Nothing changes the number of units, other than the fact that someone may contend that, hey, I would have rather some of these lots not be buildable, and so but it's not giving more units than we originally approved.
I think it's a key, very valid point too. I mean, we're not really changing anything. We're just fixing things. So
Right.
there's actually a buildable envelope.
Right. So that what people buying lots thought they could build
Exactly.
can actually be built. And while it's obviously not our responsibility to make sure that everything works out for the developer or the builder, we want this to be a nice neighborhood. We don't want somebody to have to come put a tiny house and a carport on one of these
Yeah.
lots.
And not, I mean, as a homeowner, they're gonna want a garage. It'd be
Right.
nice if we allowed a garage.
I would love a garage.
But there
And
are,
if- and
there
if-
are changes to the house design. I mean, you have more changes there. It's just not the garage making it buildable and that sort of thing. At least that's what it appears to me, so.
Which ones jump out at you as changing?
Well, you're changing the side setbacks.
Yes, we did change the side
So, I
setbacks
mean,
on the house.
There are some, and you're allowing them to get closer to it, which I think is a good idea from not being able to park in the back. So, to me, there are some changes, but particularly the side setback, you are making. a
Yeah, that's
change.
the most substantive change
Right.
in terms of the intent, deviation from the intent. You could say this would be the most substantive change in actual impact because it's a big difference in measurement.
Right.
But it was always intended to go to the back of the lot, where the houses were originally designed to be 10 off the side. Now they're going to be 8 off the side.
Right.
And the last one is the Loft House, which is the product that's essentially a ground floor garage and then two living floors above that. This originally also carried over from one of the other lot types, a 20-foot setback for parking away from the front facade, which would leave a wee little spot to park your motorcycle in the garage in the back part of it. And these units are always designed to have basically the whole first floor other than the landing be the garage. So we changed the requirement from 20 feet away from the front facade to they have to be screened. So if there's somewhere...
What does that mean?
That means they have to be inside. Well, that's actually a good question. They say screened. There could be arguments over what screened is. But the way this plat is designed, these will all be parked in the building. So as long as the parking's in the garage, that's the intent of this. That none of these units are platted in such a way that you could park anywhere else on the property. None of the lots are big enough.
So screen just means they have to park in the garage?
Yes.
It doesn't mean they can not have a garage
No.
and just put up a carport with shades on it or
Because there's
whatever?
no room to put up a carport.
Okay.
They're underneath the living.
It's underneath the living area,
Yes,
correct?
because
Okay.
these lots, this is the size of the lot, and this is the house. So you can build to 90% of the width of the lot.
Maybe this is getting into the weeds too much, but can we change that screened to something else that says
Sure, we
20
can.
feet, 20 feet to park in the garage or something? Or
Yes, that parking on the lot has to
just
be.
whatever it takes to make it more clear. I mean, obviously it didn't mean anything to me.
Right. That's a really good catch. It's hard. I often forget the context I have in my own brain and that to look at it
Yeah.
from the perspective
Happens to
of
everybody.
Yeah.
Have these product types been put up anywhere else? I can't get over that facade to the back of the garage thing. It's like you're taking out it's going to look way denser in my mind because you're going to look like a solid building on 90% of the lot or 80% of the lot. It's like you're going to take out that big chunky yard. And so, yeah, I mean, you're not really changing anything with respect to how they are oriented to their neighbors, but it's just going to look like a much denser when you take all that yard out. It's all
It
built.
might.
Because I mean, you're talking 10 to 15 or 18 feet on each one. It's going to be extra building.
It's not extra building from what was it intended to be. If you look at the lot standards or the illustrative plan, it is more building than would have been permitted under a strict reading in the zone. But as it currently written, you could have a wing attaching your house to your garage already. This just reduces the length of that wing, and it is possible that wing could have been shorter than the rest of the house, but
So it still could have aesthetically looked the same.
yes,
Just not functionally, because
Right.
you couldn't have the official garage go
Right.
up that far.
right. You probably couldn't build a house because you have to park 2 stalls on the lot, and if we only gave you 12 feet to do that in.
And I'd just love to see a picture like this is what it looks like versus, but
Yeah,
it's not possible if the product's not somewhere else.
it's actually, I mean, if you want to go on, as long as I'm not driving, because I've been told I'm terrible at driving and showing things. There's a lot of this product in Daybreak. I know a lot of people don't like to hear, let's go look at Daybreak, but it's kind of our local lab. It's nice to have something so we don't have to go to Stapleton, Endeavor, or drive to Florida to see something. All of the products that we've shown you here have been built there, and there's actually concept or illustrative images in the lot type standards, and there's one from Daybreak for all of them, as an illustration of what they would look like.
With these same setbacks that we're fixing here.
Yes, they vary all over the place. Daybreak's more based off of a lot width standard than a lot type standard. It's a little bit different regulatory mechanism, but it has the same geometric results. Yeah. This is also, it really illustrated the point for us that it's important to keep the original town designer on board and involved through the engineering process, because there was a lot of lost in translation moments between Tom Lowe, our new urbanist, lifelong designer, and our civil engineer, who was just trying to put roads and lots in, and that led to a lot of the me having to analyze and coming up with some of these things that didn't work based on the lot standards. So I think we have a more robust set of standards in the Lakeside area that are vetted better. I think this land plan is excellent. It's as good or better than the Lakeside land plan, like the actual layout, the parks, the blocks, but it's definitely a learning experience from the code side. We also had on the Loft House building front and side encroachments, but since it's a 0 setback, there's nothing to encroach into because you're already at the lot line, so we just took those off of the table.
Josh, can you help us, at least a couple of us, understand when, if and when we approve this, and the same committee that was formed of the citizens in that neighborhood, help us to understand. I know we had a public comment, but from what you've shared so far, and I don't think we've talked about height yet, but where are they gonna say we misled them, or, I think you understand what I'm asking.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not quite sure what they're going to ask me to say. This is, you told us one thing, we worked with you, and now you threw this at us. Help me understand what that is and what the answer is to why we should approve this.
Yeah, I think an easy answer is, one, when you first came out and told us you had a problem, we lost 20 units. We lost 20 units. We added multiple acres and hundreds of thousands of dollars to a park. We reduced, the Planning Commission recommended just the heights based on floors. The City Council, when they saw it in September, heard concern from neighbors and said we need a height limit at a foot so that it's clear, the expectation is clear, so that 35-foot height limit was added. And that each of the lot type diagrams and the illustrative images in here showed what we're permitting here, but simply that the arithmetic didn't add up to actually produce what we had shown them in here. So the code, the deficiencies in the code would have actually prevented a builder from delivering what we told the neighborhood could have been delivered. So this is actually allowing a quality, livable unit to be built instead of like we mentioned on the 3 townhome estate, trying to find a way to build a house in this spot.
And so their perception that we're going back on it is based on not quite understanding what we're really doing, or what?
Well, I reached out to the neighborhood. We put signs on the site, and I received 2 comments, and now one more from the gentleman that addressed us, and then Natalie talked to me before the meeting, and that ranged in those comments ranged from, oh, it would be kind of nice for some of these not to be buildable, to, well, it makes sense to be able to build a house with a garage. So I haven't, as opposed to our last interaction, I haven't been approached by anyone who feels that we're trying to sneak something through or not being transparent.
So what we're doing here is allowing the buildings to be built the way that we originally told that neighborhood that they would be built.
Yes.
Okay.
I would say with the exception of the change from 10 to 8 on the street side yard of the houses. That's the only.
But none of those back their homes.
No, they don't.
All those setbacks are just within this particular neighborhood.
Yes.
It's not affecting the surrounding.
And none of them are on the sides of lots that abut the adjoining lots to the east.
Okay.
So there's a house on the extreme north and extreme south end. There's a house next to the existing houses, and those will be interior side yards, so those will actually stay at 8 instead of going to 5 like we previously considered, after we looked at all the lots individually and found out that we could keep it at 8. So they won't. That could have potentially been a spot where there is one spot where there is an existing house, and the house could have ended up being 3 feet closer than had been originally represented in the code. But we're recommending just to keep that house interior side yard at 8 as it was originally coded. This comes to you with a unanimous 5-0 recommendation from Planning Commission, with Commissioner Heaps excused. And I guess the one thing we need to address is what would be an appropriate substitution for screened for the Loft House. And I can, we could just write it in. It's only in one. It only is in one instance in here. Or I could go up and change it in the PDF and reprint it. But I would propose that we could just change that to in garage or enclosed in garage, and I think that would satisfy the concern. Because again, none of these loft houses are platted in a way that there's really room for surface parking.
Yeah, I would like to say. I would like to see it say in garage.
Okay,
That
garage.
makes it much more clear, at least in my mind.
Kim,
Yes.
should I go change the PDF? Should we just write it in that one instance where it shows up in this? Because I have updated plan for your to sit underneath the
Height, I'm still not sure where we're at.
underneath the ordinance. I can go change it. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah, it can be handwritten.
Okay. And then I'll come back to the question. Let me just get Kim going on this.
While they're doing this, let me just mention that item number 7 had to do with reciprocal easement, and they were not ready to present this to the city council. It went through the planning commission and was voted against to do that, but they want to present it to the city council, but they were not prepared. The other one is, just for the audience and Michael, you, is that they also would like to increase, I believe it's the townhomes, by another 5 feet so they can get another story in it. And that we're making them go through the process of the planning commission, and that's where the neighborhood needs to, if they have an interest one way or the other, they need to voice that with the planning commission and also the city council. So then they very willingly said, we want to go through the process rather than circumvent the planning commission and the neighborhood and bring it back through the process. So just so you know, they have a right to bring anything they want to the city council, and we have the right to vote yes or no on it. So just to give you a little heads up of kind of the dynamics of what's happening with it, and we've had communication with the developer in that regard. So
Yeah.
does that help you?
We anticipate they'll update their application for the text amendment that they previously submitted to include
Yeah.
height if they decide to make that move.
Yeah.
So to Councilmember Sorensen, there is no
Nothing on this.
change proposed in height other than making sure that 35 that the council asked for in September of last year is
Is
there.
in
It's still there now.
Yes, it's still,
It's not getting
it
changed.
was absent because of my oversight, but it was absent on the copy that was before the council and was adopted, so we felt it was necessary to officially put the right thing in front of you and have you vote on it.
Okay, so we have item number 6, and Josh has gone through that. Questions aside from changing the term screen to enclosed in a garage or enclosed
In garage.
in garage, whatever the case was.
In garage was what was added to the
Okay,
proposal.
in garage, so we have added that, so we don't need to go upstairs, is that right?
That's right.
Okay, so we have a question. Any questions for Josh that we haven't asked? Oh, yes. It's highly irregular, but you know what? We like you, so yes, you can go ahead and do it.
Got away from a family reunion to come down, so I appreciate
Well, that may be a real blessing. It depends on the kind of family reunion you
not my
got.
family. So, from my perspective, it appears that we have two things that have been approved: the number of units on one hand, and then the setbacks on the other. And whatever errors have occurred, we need to make some correction. And it seems like all of the errors are being corrected on the side of setbacks rather than the number of units. It does seem as if there were, when I look over the plats that are here, there's a lot more empty space carved out and open space in between units. It appears units now take up more of their lot than they did before. So that does seem to be against the original intent of what we hoped for in the plan from the community.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Questions for Josh? Discussion?
Just one quick question on that. I mean, the setback issue doesn't, you couldn't keep the setbacks the same and just decrease the number of lots because it's front to back, right? That's not really gonna make a difference anyways, right?
What you're basically doing is you're just saying, hey, we're gonna create a product that's not very useful, so good luck building a house there, the words.
No, I
Builders will still build it, it just won't be as nice as it could have been.
Yeah, specifically to the setback question,
Yeah.
are you gonna be able to, could you keep setbacks the same without amending it here?
But we aren't changing the number of lots, are we?
We're not changing the number of lots.
No, we're
They-
not. I'm just saying to what Michael.
The only case where that would work would be side setbacks. And if you read the staff report for number 7, that was actually our initial response to Lafferty, was if you feel like the lots are too narrow on this frontage, lose a lot.
Right. But it's not gonna work front to back as well.
No, because they're literally like pouring the curb and gutter right now. So if we started changing front to back dimensions, we'd, the blocks stop working.
Except for the house where you're doing the 2 feet.
Right, if we
Not-
started making, except for the house side yard. So in one case, you could lose a house, and in my estimation, it's better to have an additional large single-family house in the neighborhood
Then something
than to
else.
have it be 2 feet farther away from the road.
Is that all it would be with the difference between the 2 or the 10 and the 8?
And the houses, yes, it
It'll
would
be
just
one
be one
house.
house.
Oh, it's only one house.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, other questions?
Thanks for the
Well,
comments.
I would assume too, if we would have pushed that, their negotiations would have said, we're still gonna get the 146 lots. We'll just reduce the amount we're gonna put into the park. That would have been their proposal, you would think. Because they already reduced it. How many lots from 20?
something.
You can't know that, but it's not a given that they would build the same park.
The park's actually contractually obligated under development
The size of it?
Yeah, but that change was made in November, right? And that's when the number of buildable units was determined after those 20 lots were removed. And nothing has changed there. Okay.
Okay, I'm open for a motion or not motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 11-2022, amending the Springville City Code, section 11-5A-101, Westfield Central New Neighborhood Plan.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. That's a roll call vote. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Snelson?
Yes.
Liz?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Number 7 is, we'd like a motion for continuation. Is that
Mayor,
the
I'll
right
move that.
terminology?
Mayor, I move that we continue item number 7.
I'll second.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, sounds good.
It's another gnat's butt. I'm just saying.
I just wanted to take a moment and, this is Leon Frederickson's last meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And, and so he's been with the city for 39 years, and we just express our appreciation to him.
Is that a tear rolling down your eye there?
It's a
Tear of
tear
Not
of,
for sitting in these meetings, I
That
promise.
is part of the golden handcuffs. He has
Yeah.
to keep coming even after he's done.
Yeah.
well, it's been my privilege to know Leon for at least that many years, and we've lived in the same neighborhood, the same ward for almost that many years, and he's an incredibly a great man of integrity and character. He's a great family man, and he loves his kids more than anybody that I know, and he's been wonderful at raising his family. So I've just enjoyed the association and friendship. I'm just interested as to what's going to happen between he and Debbie and having him there full time. That's what she's going to put you to work more than she does now. So, yeah. Oh, it gets bigger. Okay, sounds good. Well, Leon, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we have an item on the agenda for a resolution, and Sean will not only have you take a moment, but congratulate you on becoming the replacement for Leon. We're very proud of you, and we look forward to great things from you, and it's wonderful. So thank you very much for accepting that opportunity. Oh, you'll do fine. You'll do just fine. Okay, well, this is in regard to a solar, the steel solar contract that we entered into, and they have the right to come back and renegotiate that contract, which they have done due to costs.
Yes.
And so Sean's here to just spend a moment with us and
Yeah,
answer
pretty
any
much
questions we
just
have
try
for
and
him.
Answer any questions. I mean, you'll see in the resolution, it's at 3466, and when you signed back in April, it was at $31, and I think it was 44 cents. So it's about 10% increase. They absorbed 10% of that increase, or half of that increase, and then we're proposing that we re-sign a new amended and restated transaction schedule with them. Just to give you background too, there's tons of cities that want in on this. UAMPS is already signing it, and there's tons of subscriptions, so if we decide we didn't want it, it's taken, it'll be taken. So we still think it's a good idea to do. Right now, there's a lot of problems in the transmission system in Pacific Core where you have to do a study, and it's about 5 years out now to get any project into the system. So anything existing is it's kind of like water rights. The oldest or the first ones get priority, and so we think it's a good idea to still do this even with the higher price. And the utility board all approved as well of it. So
Okay, wonderful. Questions for Sean?
Just Craig was there too at the utility board meeting, but I think the only questions it seems like a really small piece, but we're trying to get everything we can. You know, there's just not much available right now. It's only 2.2
I like your
megawatts.
analogy. That analogy was good. Being on the utility board has paid off for Sean. He's talking water. and he's a power guy.
I won't do that much.
No, but I mean, it is a
Yeah.
very small piece, but
Yeah.
small pieces add up. But
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's actually
there's no
when
choice,
it
right?
is
There's
too,
no
because it's during the
alternative, so
day,
it's-
so that could help us. So, yeah, we need all the pieces to fall in. We have about 4 projects that we're trying to get to come to fruition, and if we can get them all, it'll help us a lot.
What's
And if
the
we can-
location of this project?
Up by Plymouth, Utah.
Oh, yeah, I asked, you that, and that's the same one, okay.
Yeah, it's the same one as you guys signed for in April. But they were able to get out of the contract on force majeure because of getting panels and things like that. And so we just renegotiated with them, and they're a pretty big company, they're pretty good. I think they have about 6 gigawatts, which is quite a lot of power in renewable projects. The IPP is almost 2 gigawatts, so think of, I mean, it's a lot. I think it's like
Almost going down,
360
baby.
projects or something like that that they've got going on, so.
And even with the price increase, how is this in relation to the blended cost that we pay on a monthly basis?
It should
It's
help.
important.
It'll help right now, definitely. I think I put it in your packet there, but our market price has been coming up to where in the mid-60s. And we're seeing like high prices at night right now, and we used to not see that. It was kind of like we'd get the engines running in the day, we'd have all this stuff pounding it in the day, and then we'd get to rest at night, but it's 24/7 right now. So it's not good.
Hot.
Yeah, it's hot, and then it's just,
Yeah.
everything's high, everything's gone up, so.
Okay, sounds good. Other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion or a lack of a motion.
I'll motion to approve resolution 2022-28, authorized, amended, and restated transaction schedule for the Steel Solar LLC project, providing entitlement of 2299 kW of capacity in the Steel Solar 1B project. The term of this transaction is scheduled for 25 years at the price of $34.66 per MWH. This resolution will supersede the resolution approved on April 5th, 2022 by the City Council.
Okay, I have a motion. I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Liz. This
Yes.
is a roll call vote. Sorry, Liz.
Yeah, yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Jason.
Yes.
Craig.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Thank you, Sean.
you very
Appreciate it. All right, any other items we need for a closed session? I think we took care of that, so I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Hey.
Opposed? Great.